So, how do you know when you're hearing from Yah or yourself or the enemy? Everybody, I want to welcome you once again to Purposeful Pursuit. Thank you so much for joining me. And I am so excited about just being a part of this new series, because this is one of the things that, I'm telling you, we need the most. We need to understand how to pursue Yah on purpose. You understand what I'm saying? So right now we are in a segment which is really about hearing from the Most High and moving with Him. Last week, we covered about the importance of moving with Yah's timing and not against His timing, not being too slow, not being too fast. And now this week, we're going to talk about what it means to actually know when you're moving with Yah. And I want to give a shout out to one of my patrons. I don't want to put her out there, but she actually asked me this question. And it actually was going in the same direction that I was going in. So I said, I'm going to let you know this week. So I hope that you are paying attention. So when it comes to knowing that you are hearing from the Most High versus hearing from yourself, there's a couple of different things that you have to factor in. Well, the reality is that just like the Most High Yah is three parts, so are we. He is the Father, the Son, and the Ruach HaKodesh. We are soul, we are spirit, and we are body. And each of those parts of us functions in a different way. So obviously our body is what houses our soul and our spirit. Our body is how we move and function in the earth. But it's the shell, if you will. Outside of it being the shell, it really does not have any spiritual value, if it will, other than to be used as examples, like running a race, like Paul talked about. When it comes to how we operate in this life, we're operating through our soulical realm, which is our mind and our will, and also our emotions, right? And so our emotions can come in many different forms. We can be happy, or we can be sad, or we can be angry, we can be anxious, all these different ways in which we express emotions. And when it comes to our will, I will do this, I won't do that, I will eat, I will exercise, I will go lay down on that couch and take a nap. When we're operating from the soulical realm, then it is something in which we operate inside of our mind, not our physical, like flesh, brain, but our mind, right? We are operating with our sense of understanding and how to move and operate in this world on, again, a soulical, fleshy and carnal level. Now, the reason why I say fleshy and carnal level is because usually when it comes to our soul, it has to do with the practicalities of life. It has to do with the day-to-day functions of life. It has to do with, okay, what am I going to wear today? What am I going to eat today? What am I going to say to my coworker who's getting on my last nerves? I'm getting ready. Okay, y'all understand what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So when you're dealing with your soulical realm, you're dealing with the practicalities, the day-to-day functions of life. But when you're dealing with your spirit man, when you're born again, because if you're not born again, then your spirit man is dead, right? It's disconnected from Abba Yahuwah, because only in Yahushua HaMashiach does our spirit become revived or alive. That is literally what we need in order to have what is actually the next component of us, which is the Ruach HaKodesh. So the Ruach HaKodesh is not us. The Ruach HaKodesh is the personhood of the Most High, that third part of the Most High, which dwells in us. So the Ruach HaKodesh, when it has precedence in our life, informs our spirit man. And so when you look at the soul is really a neutral ground, right? So the soul doesn't really have authority. The soul kind of just goes with what's most powerful. So if you're feeding your spirit man, you're feeding on the word, you're in prayer, you're listening to the voice of the Ruach HaKodesh, then your spirit man is going to be more empowered, and your soul is going to follow the direction of your spirit man, which follows the direction of the Ruach HaKodesh. I hope I'm not making this too complicated. But if you're feeding your flesh, you're watching all kinds of things on TV, you're listening to all kinds of music, you're not in the word, you're not praying, you're gossiping, you're carrying on. All of a sudden now your spirit man is becoming weaker and weaker. You're grieving the Ruach HaKodesh. And your flesh man is becoming more empowered, and more emboldened. And so when your flesh man is becoming more emboldened and more empowered, it's going to make decisions towards carnality. Your soul is willing towards carnality, towards what the flesh wants, right? We have three enemies. We have the world, we have the flesh, we have Satan. Those are the three enemies. So the soul, taking the neutral or practicality grounds, is vulnerable to either one, either your flesh being strong or your spirit man being strong. And your spirit man can't be strong unless the Ruach HaKodesh lives in you and you are adhering to and obeying the Ruach HaKodesh's leading. So how do you know that you are obeying, that you're being led of the Ruach HaKodesh versus being led of your flesh? Well, we can simply go to the book of Galatians chapter 5 to examine that. Galatians chapter 5, picking up in verse 19, says, "The acts of the flesh are obvious: sexual immorality, impurity and debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like." Now we have quite a list here of the acts of the flesh. They're obvious, the scripture says. Sexual immorality, not of the Ruach HaKodesh, not of the leading. Impurity, Debauchery. How about idolatry or witchcraft? Hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions and factions and envy, drunkenness and orgies. All of those naughty things, right? So those are the acts of the flesh. Those are what the flesh does, right? It's the carnality. Now, if you're listening to the voice of the Ruach HaKodesh, then this should be your response in life. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That's all found in Galatians chapter 5, verse 23. Galatians chapter 5, verse 22 and 23 is a perfect model for understanding how you know whether or not you're listening to the leading of the Holy Spirit or the Ruach HaKodesh versus listening to the leading of yourself. You see, when you're listening to the leading of yourself, then quite frankly, you're selfish. Quite frankly, you're going to do what's best for your interest and your interest alone. When you're listening to the voice of the Ruach HaKodesh, you are not thinking about you. You're thinking about how this is going to affect, or your decision is going to affect or impact others around you. Why do I say that? Well, the two greatest commands say, love the Most High with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Well, we already know most of us don't have problems with loving ourselves, right? We're going to make sure that we eat. We're going to make sure that we have a roof over our heads that we're taken care of. But when it comes to loving our neighbors, that's a little bit harder, right? Especially when those neighbors are. Yeah. The truth is that it's not as easy to love others, especially the unlovable ones, when we are acting out in the flesh. And it's most definitely not easy when we're not born again. But when we're born again and we're listening to the Ruach HaKodesh, He fills us with His Spirit to help our motivations now shift from a selfish perspective to one where we're thinking about others, thinking about what's most important to the body. I had a conversation with my son tonight, and teenagers have a way of just flipping out from 30 to 3. 1 minute they are 3 years old and you're like, I'm such a failure. And the next minute they're 30 years old and you're like, oh, praise Yah, I thought I was losing you. So tonight he was 30. And when he spoke to me about the value of the body. He spoke to me about the ants in particular. And he said how ants will team up with one another. They will literally connect to one another to cross a river, knowing that they're going to die, to allow the other ants in the colony to walk on their back so that they can get across that bridge to form a new colony. You see, the goal is the colony. The goal is not the individual self. And when we're following out the direction of the Ruach HaKodesh, it's the same way. It's a daily death to yourself. It's a taking of that shovel, getting in that dirt, and it's setting your own graveyard. It's saying, I'm not concerned about me and me alone. I'm concerned about the Ruach HaKodesh, the kingdom of the Most High, and his body, his kingdom. Now, the truth is that that's not easy to live out. I mean, I don't know who that's easy to live out for. Definitely not me. You see, because I was born selfish. I was born wanting my own way. I was born demanding with tears that I get my own way. I was a baby. And many times believers, when they become born again, they revert right back to that baby stage. They go into the stage of pouting and control. They go into the stage where they are so dependent and so needy on everyone else who is spiritually more mature than they are. But they can be very comfortable in that place and not want to grow up. The truth is that as we grow in maturity in the Ruach HaKodesh, in the born again life and experience, the death process, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. Why? Because you're aware of the sovereignty of the Most High. You're aware that the day-to-day decisions that you're making are not just about affecting you and your life. They're about affecting and impacting all those who are around you, your family, your community. They're about affecting change in the earth. Now, this might seem like some grand scale. Come on now, y'all know me. Come on, I'm Ashanda at large. Okay, so we're gonna think big here. But really in the practical sense of how it is that you are supposed to know whether you are discerning the voice of Yah. Let's say for something as simple as, okay, is it time for me to leave this job because these nutcases are really getting on my nerves? Or should I stay and suffer for the people of Yah for the rest of the week? Well, sometimes decisions like that, they can feel overwhelming. They can feel like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Well, I'll tell you, in that instance, one of the best ways to find out what you're supposed to do is test the waters. So how you test the waters is after you pray. And let's say you don't really get a response. You don't hear clearly from the Ruach. Well, you take a step forward and doing what you believe that you're supposed to do, which is 9 times out of 10, quitting that job, right? So you're going to look for another job. In your field, in your industry, you see how many doors open up. Does even one open up? Or do no doors open up? Maybe the Most High at that moment is trying to teach you a lesson about perseverance. Or maybe he's trying to teach you a lesson about perseverance because he wants you to learn everything it is that you need to learn, the good, the bad, and the ugly at that company so that you can build your own. You see, oftentimes we're just trying to get out of the fire. We're trying our very best to get out of negative situations. And that's oftentimes why it is that we can't hear from the Ruach HaKodesh, because we just want relief. We just want comfort. We just want peace, right? But the truth is that what he is looking for is the molding process in us to develop us into the person that we're called to be from the foundation of the earth when it was laid. So when it comes to hearing clearly the voice of the Ruach HaKodesh, you have to examine your motives. You have to really ask yourself, what am I feeding more? Am I feeding my flesh? Am I watching Netflix and eating a bunch of popcorn and ice cream sandwiches and some steak and some macaroni and cheese? I'm getting myself hungry over here. Or am I spending time in Yah's presence, in his word, filling myself up with his spirit? Am I growing stronger in my spirit man? You see, because to whom much is given, much is required. And as he pours more of his grace upon you, more of his understanding of his word, your spirit man is getting stronger. And as your spirit man is getting stronger, now he can entrust you with more things. So as you are going throughout your week and you are trying your best to hear from the Ruach, start there. Start with doing that spiritual checkup. Where are you really? And if you find yourself in a place where, honestly, you ain't there, then it's time to get there. Hey, listen, family. I hope that y'all enjoyed this Purposeful Pursuit Part 2 of Moving with Yah. I got 2 more parts on this. I'm thinking I got 2 more parts on this. Now, y'all know it'll get to you within a week or so. But I do want to invite you all to Brew Talk, personal development and family coaching. Now, y'all know as patrons and members that you get your first 30 minutes for free. Some of y'all have signed up and y'all been blessed for it. Others have not. But these are the areas that I specialize in helping brothers and sisters navigate through. So if you could use 30 minutes, an hour to just dissect some of the things that are in your life and really get yourself prepared for that spiritual growth, then you definitely need to set up a coaching session. I'll put the information down below in the details. And I definitely want to hear what your thoughts are on today's message. Where are you? Are you spiritually strong or are you spiritually weak? Let me know what you think in the comment section. And family, thank you again for all your support. Thanks for listening to Purposeful Pursuit. And I pray that you would listen to the voice of the Ruach HaKodesh as you pursue Yah on purpose.